Minasan, konbanwa. Welcome to episode number 5 of CinemAsian. With me, Joe. Do it. And today we are going to talk about Aku no Kyoten, also known as Lesson of Evil.
Lesson of Evil.
It's a movie from 2012, directed by Takashi Miike. Fuck, I always want to say Mike. So, Joe, when was the first time that you saw this movie?
This was the first time. You talked about it, I think it was earlier this week, because we were going to do something for the CinemAsian stream, and we were like, what are we going to do? There's so much stuff to choose from, and you were like, check this out. And then I tried that site, and it was like, nah, it's not friendly on here. So you sent me that link, and then I was able to watch it through that, and yeah, that was the first time I saw it. I saw it today. That was the first time.
Well, I'm glad that you saw it because it's such a cool movie. Well, cool as in disturbing. Really fucked up.
Yeah.
I saw it, I think, in 2012 or 2013. That's one of the first time that I saw it because I really like the actor. Hideaki Itō, if I'm correct. The guy that plays Hasumi. Sensei Hasumi, everybody's local friend. Your go-to friend, the trusty teacher, right?
Oh yeah, you would think so initially, until you find out some shit.
Yeah, because Hasumi, he's teaching at this school for about a year. He is known as being a very charismatic dude, the good-looking dude. He's always very optimistic, and he's the go-to guy that you can trust. And there are some students that actually go to him that trust him, like Mia, for example. But
He really trusts him. He really trusts him.
And I think in the beginning when they have this, what is it called, like the teacher gathering, where they are talking about that there's too much cheating going on with the exams and what can they do to prevent it. Hasumi comes up with this idea to jam the signal of the telephone, and basically it's kind of illegal, so they decide not to do it, but instead kids have to turn in the phones, right, in this little basket before the exam starts. But then we have Tsuri, Sensei Tsuri, the champion in this movie, who does use his phone just to check, and he sees that the signal is being blocked.
Yeah,
that
was a really cool moment too, because when you see the movie poster cover, you know that he's like a killer because you can see like the blood and stuff on the shirt in the movie poster. Like if you look up like, Lesson of Evil, and you see his character with blood on his shirt, you know he's the bad guy, right? But the way they portrayed it in the movie, like Sana was saying, is like he starts off as like this really charismatic, charming guy in these schools. You don't know, you think he's like this. He's great, and he's just a great guy. He's so great. He's a wonderful teacher, just an amazing guy. And like Sana was saying, like the one scene they're having like this meeting of how to stop the cheating and stuff from going on. And he stands up and he's like being real humble and being real charismatic. He's like, I have a really brilliant idea. We could just jam the phones. It's kind of illegal, but and he sits back down and the one guy's like, no, that's illegal. We can't do that. And the other teacher was like, do it. Remember that part? He's like, do it. So he does. Like he eventually does it. But the reason why is, as you'll see as the movie unfolds and we talk about it here, it kind of works to his advantage too. So he's not doing it just because of the cheating. He's doing it for more than that. So
it was the start of his game.
Yeah.
To silence the students and the entire school, basically.
Yes. Which, that's a really good point, Sonic, because thinking about it here, it was like, I don't think he planned that whole thing at the end. Like, I don't think that was a plan. I think the reason he ended up doing that was because that one kid came up after he threw her over the fucking roof, and then he was just like, fuck it, I'll just kill everybody, So like, I don't know.
Yeah, but it already started with the meeting between the sensei Tsuri and Keisuke, the student, because Keisuke thought and said that Tsuri was guilty of jamming the signal because he is part of this radio class as well.
Mhm.
And this guy, Tsuri, he has like anxiety or something because whenever he gets the attention, he starts like, ready to throw up and cough. And you even hear the disgusting swallowing part when he confronts the student.
It's like hacking shit up in napkins, like loogies and shit.
So he basically says to Keisuke and the other two students, like, it wasn't me, it was someone else. And when Tsuri did the whole entire investigation and he heard it, what's his name again? Hasumi, the main protagonist, when he overhears it because he jammed the entire signal so he can hear everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when it started because, okay, we're already going ahead in the movie, but the way we can leave it for later, I guess.
No, as I say, we can come back to it. I mean, we're going to talk about this whole movie, so talk about what you want and let's come back. It doesn't matter either way, right? But I think, the part that really, I think that you're right. I think that was kind of like the initial thing with it. The way that the thing that I love about the movie is the way, like, you can see like his facade fade away, like that movie poster that you posted on Insta, like your story. Like he has two faces, like he's pulling one away. You can like see that facade of this charming, like really sweet, like down to earth, caring teacher fall away as he starts to take the mask off. Like that's the point of that poster. Like it's just a mask, and like underneath is this fucking monster. And I think whenever he starts to like get deeper and deeper into more evil shit, I like how the title is called Lesson of Evil, because it's like he's a teacher and he's showing these kids evil, but at the same time, he's learning a lesson as this like killer, and he's becoming more evolved every time he does something. Like he has the affair with what's her name, Mia.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't want people to find out about that. And then he has the thing with the fucking bugging the rooms with the recording equipment so he can hear the conversations. And he doesn't want people to find out about that. And then, like you said, with people find out about shit from his past and him jamming the cell phones and all that shit. And he's like, I don't want people to know it was me. So he has to fucking go kill people because of that. And then it just like turns into this fucking snowball effect where he has to kill everybody because he fucking just does the evilest shit, and he doesn't want to get caught, so to protect himself, he has to kill people. It's like, it's fucking cool, man. It's like, it's crazy. It's a crazy fucking movie, but it's so cool.
Exactly. And we have what happens in the beginning also. We have 3 female students coming up to Hasumi. I keep forgetting this. So the evil teacher. And they are like confiding in him, like, we have this assumption that Mia is being sexually harassed by another teacher, Shibahara, who you see just a few times in the movie. Mm-hmm. And so he goes to Mia, and you see them already sitting in a van. It's not like he takes her apart in the classroom or whatever. He's already going really personal, really fast. And he's talking with her, and she explains that he caught her shoplifting. And then he asked her the reason why she did it, and he recorded that in a way that he could blackmail her in order to sexually abuse her. And there's another sexual abuse going on in the school. You have another male teacher that, there's a particular scene happening that he has a relationship with a male student. I mean, there's a lot of disturbing shit going on this school.
Sensei Kume. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot his name, by the way.
Yeah. So. No, it's really like Sana said. There's a lot of. This is the 3rd movie that Sana and I have done by Takashi Miike. He's a fucking awesome director, and like, just to step outside of the movie for a second and the story, like again, just the way he directs the movie and the shots he has are fucking like gorgeous. There's one scene that I really love where Hasume he basically what he does is he's really fit and he works out all the time because he's like he's a fucking killer. So like he wants to be prepared for when something happens. So he's always training and working out to be the best he can be. Like he's doing pull-ups naked and shit in his fucking house and all this crazy shit. And he's doing like from the Batman movie, like the first movie where he's hanging upside down on a fucking rafter and doing like crunches. It's insane. But there's a scene where he's running through like the woods in this forest. And I can't tell if it's a graveyard or not, but he's like running up the steps. And before it's at nighttime, and before he runs up the steps, like the camera just shows like Tokyo, like the city, and it like pans into him running up the steps in this graveyard. It's fucking like beautifully shot. It's amazing, just the way he shoots stuff. Like he's like a visual genius. Like,
oh yeah,
I don't know who would you compare him to, like director wise, if you had to compare him to another director who wasn't Japanese. I don't know.
Well, he is one of a kind,
Yeah.
but I can see some, maybe Quentin Tarantino, because he also tends to go a bit overboard. And
yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking either Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese, if I was like direction wise.
Martin came first in my head, but I was like, no, maybe not. Oh, we have people in the chat. Let's acknowledge them so they can leave afterwards. Like, oh, finally, we have the Pizza Squad. It is Louis.
What's up, Louis?
And my sister, Linda.
Burrito Gamer, what's up?
What up? So when he goes and talk with Mia, he tries to be like the father figure first, like we go to the shop, you apologize, and she does that, and then he starts manipulating her. So now you send a text to this teacher saying that you apologized, and yet the conduct that he's doing is very wrong. Already starting the whole manipulation process already, that's just already like fuck. But in a way, I mean, I tried to, put myself in their shoes. I would probably be just like them, like I would trust the teacher, because a lot of these teachers are always very cold and distant. And then you have this one teacher that doesn't punish you when you read a manga during class, because he's like, oh, well, translate the title of the manga in English, and everybody's laughing like, oh, it's a good time. And yeah.
No, that's a good point, because you know what? I was thinking about that too. And like Son is saying, this guy, this character, he's an English teacher. So he's teaching these kids like English pretty much, like words. And one of the words he uses is like magnificent. And he like makes the kids say it. And like the one kid asks, like, what's the difference between good or great? And he's like, good is, he's like, it's okay, it's good. And he's like, but great's better. And he's like, magnificent's just like amazing. And he's writing this stuff in English. And like Sana said, this guy at the very beginning, like, even though by seeing the movie poster that he's a fucking serial killer, you would never guess it. Like, have you not ever seen the poster, like I mentioned, and you just watch the movie from the beginning, you're like, this guy's pretty cool. This guy's pretty neat. Like, he's a really nice guy. He's down to earth. I get along with this guy. He'd be there for me. He wouldn't stab me in the back. He'd be a person I can go to and count on, and like, he'd stick up for me, and he'd lead me in the right direction. And that's what, like she's saying, these group of girls, one of them is getting bullied, and they go to him because they trust him, because they think he's like a guy who will stand up for them, because he is so charismatic and so charming, and so he seems like he actually cares. But it's all a fucking facade, He's just like some fucking raving lunatic. It's insane, like how he just like transforms. And wow, the movies
also fast, like
like it really is. Like I mentioned earlier, like after he does like one evil deed after another evil deed after another evil deed, he just starts to get even eviler. Like it's like his evilness just grows throughout the movie until the very end. It's like he's not even the teacher anymore. He's just like this fucking evil mass murderer. Like it's crazy. It's a crazy fucking movie. I've never seen it today, and I watched it and I was like, this fucking movie is legit. Like, if you guys like Hannibal, like those kind of movies, I don't know if anybody ever seen the movie Dexter or the TV series Dexter. That character, he's a serial killer. Like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of that. Also, like American Psycho with Christian Bale, that movie. It really reminds me of that in some parts too, because there's this like soundtrack that he plays about, it's like a German soundtrack.
I think it's Edith Piaf.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not even sure what it's called. What's the character's name in the soundtrack? I can't. Machi I can't remember. But it's about like this killer named Maki. That's it. It is absolutely crazy. And the beginning scene of the movie, like his parents, what's his name, Hasume's parents are like talking, they're like, we can't have him in his mom's like, we need to keep him, he's our son, and dad's like, we gotta kick him out, we can't have anything like this, and he's tarnishing our name, he's tarnishing our reputation, he's not my son. And as they're having this like argument in their bedroom, there's like this record spinning, and it's playing that like fucking weird ass German song about a killer or whatever, and all you see is him, like, he gets this knife and he's like walking through the house. And at this time, I think he's like 13 or 14 years old. So he's just a little kid. And then it doesn't show him kill his parents, but you get the idea. Like, it flashes to the future of him being a teacher. And it's like, you get the idea that like he fucking killed somebody before he killed his parents. And then all that's fleshed out later in the story. Like, you find out that like he killed like his old homeroom teacher and his old school, and he killed his fucking parents. And that guy who gets the the hacky guy or whatever, what the hell is his name? The one teacher, the physics professor. Yeah, he pieces all this shit together. And there was like a school he worked at before where like a bunch of kids allegedly killed themselves, and it's fucking crazy. What about the scene, son? Oh my god, that reminds me. What about the scene where that guy comes in and he's bitching about his fucking daughter getting bullied, cyber bullied or whatever, and they're like, oh no, it's fine, blah 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 blah, and he's like smoking all these fucking cigarettes and he's chain smoking.
Yeah.
What about
he's
that?
Angry.
What about that fight? What happens to that fucking guy? Oh my god, it's insane.
But also, when the cops come to school, and Sudi goes to the parking lot, and he just tells them he was a teacher before at this school, and they're like, well, first the cops are saying, yeah, but he's a charming teacher, and very handsome too. Yeah, but he taught at this school before. And he was like, what do you mean by that? And then he repeated the school name again, like, look into it. It's out of my hands. But I think also for Hasumi, for him, I think he started to lose control when Mia walked up to him on the rooftop and started to kiss him. And then he kissed her back, and they got caught by one student. I think that was already the beginning of snapping, because he knew that either way he would have to kill this kid. Well, he would have to kill the kid in order to, keep the silence. And you have to understand that this guy, I mean, this goes for a lot of psychopaths. They're fucking geniuses. And they can like lie to your face as if it's the truth. Just like when he killed his parents, he stabbed himself in the back to make himself look like the victim. And you see it happening again in the end of the movie. He has it all figured out already, but also like the suicide letter that he was writing for Mia. That was when she only asked him like one or two questions, like, did you go to that forum? Who do you think sent those messages? Things got a bit skeptic. He gets worried. He's just like, kill.
Yeah, you know what? And that's a great point too, because as Sana was talking about earlier, this other guy who was like the kendo instructor found out Mia was shoplifting, and he bribes her and says, if you don't have sex with me or have like do sexual favors for me, this isn't the main character. This isn't Hasume. This is another teacher who teaches. He's like their physical education teacher. He teaches them kendo and martial arts. He's the one who catches Mia shoplifting and says, if you don't do sexual favors for me and basically do what I say, and if I want you, I'm going to have you, kind of thing. I'm going to tell everybody you shoplifted, blah, blah, blah. And then here's the manipulation, like Sana was saying. She confronts Hasume about it because she trusts him. Hasume makes her send a text to this guy and say, like, hey, look, I went back to the store and apologized. It's taken care of. However, what's not taken care of is the fact that you tried to bribe me with sexual favors. And if this stuff gets out, you're going to be the one who's going down, blah, blah, blah. So, like, she feels like she can trust him. But then at the same time, Hasume is just like, fucking, he uses that against her. Like Sana said, what he does is when he realizes, because she starts to investigate into him a little bit, and he kills another student, he goes out and has a drink with him. He like fucking stabs this kid in the chest. Like, it doesn't show him kill him, but like it pans to his, like, the kid's dead body with the knife he used to kill his parents in this kid's chest.
Which,
And,
by the way, is the kid that caught them on the rooftop.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't even know if he caught them. He was just there. Like, he just was there when it happened. And like, you don't, but in order for him to be 100% sure nobody's going to fucking figure out anything, he has to kill the kid. So, he uses a note later when he decides to kill Mia, and he writes, "I can't take being a slave to this PE teacher anymore for sex. I need to rid myself of my body and just end it." And he signs it Mia, and he leaves the note. So he basically used the sexual stuff that he basically tried to rectify for this girl against her later to make a suicide note, so she kills herself, and he fucking throws her off a roof of a building. It's like, this guy's fucking a genius. Like, he's a like she said, he's a genius, but he's so fucking evil.
But then also, when he knocks her down and she is like half unconscious, he takes off her underwear, because that he will use against the teacher. Like, when he sees the teacher in the hallway, he throws the underwear at him, which he miraculously like catches with the thing that he was holding, and he grabs it. And it was so awkward because he was like sniffing it. He's like, "Yeah." And then he got shot right away. So that was just a confirmation that, yes, this teacher was, in fact, abusing this girl.
Yeah, here's the thing, too. Here's like a little short synopsis, too, because after he starts doing all these evil acts and shit, bodies start piling up, obviously. Like, kids are going missing. Nobody knows what the fuck's going on. The cops are investigating. Like, he's a really charming guy, so nobody fucking suspects him early on after he's killed like 2 or 3 people. And then eventually what happens is, after he does that thing with Mia, because she's on to him killing one of the kids, because he has one of the kids' cell phones. That kid he took out drinking and stabbed in the chest.
Yeah.
He kept his cell phone and left it in his pocket. And what happens is, like Sana said, when Mia starts to confide in him, she starts to form a bond with him. They're up on this roof because she says, "Can I talk with you after school?" And he's like, "Sure, you can talk to me after school." So they meet up on the roof of the school, and as he's talking to her, I will say this, he doesn't do anything initially at first. He's just standing there. She comes up and kisses him, and he kind of like pushes her away at first. And then she's like, "I'm sorry," and starts to walk away. And then he grabs her arm and pulls her like really close and like just starts full on making out with her. And that's when the romance starts. However, what happens is, like Sana said, this other professor named Kume is having a homosexual relationship with another male student. And this art teacher, Kume, has like this really nice apartment, like this bachelor pad. It's like loaded with all this cool shit. So Hasume bribes him and says, "If you don't let me use your bachelor pad for whatever I want to do, I'm going to release to all these people in the school, and your reputation's going to be ruined. You're going to lose your teaching license, that you're having a homosexual relationship with this kid." So this Kume guy lets him use his apartment, and that's where he takes Mia and has sex with her. Like, he has sex with his student. So this guy bribes the guy who was having sex with the student to have sex with the student. It's like, he's so genius. And then what happens is, when they're in this pad one day, this is where he takes all the students. He took that kid who he had drinks with and kills him there. And then she finds this kid's cell phone in Hasume's pocket, and she starts questioning it. He's sitting there like, "I'm going to have to," like, he doesn't say it out loud, but in his head you can tell he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to have to kill her." And that's when that whole thing transpires, where he starts to come up with a plan of how to do that. And that's when he throws it over the balcony and writes a suicide note about her not being able to take it because this PE teacher was harassing her. Well, what happens is, it's funny, because when he throws her off of the roof of the school, which is fucking insane, what they're doing is, they're doing this class project. And for the class project, what they're doing, it's fucking crazy. They're doing a haunted house. Like, out of all things to do, they're doing a fucking haunted house, and there's a killer in Hasume, who's this teacher, in this fucking haunted house. So it's already creepy as fuck. Like, they're in this haunted house, there's like clown faces and all these, like, the one kid who was having the homosexual affair with Kume is an art kid, and he's making like these mannequin faces with hair and stuff on that look like the students.
Yeah,
It's like,
what?
it's fucking crazy. And that's where he decides to have this killing spree. And I'm just thinking about this right now from the top of the head here, just thinking about the scene. What a fucking genius idea. It's a haunted house. People are going to be screaming anyway. So if I go in there with a shotgun and start blowing people away, people are going to think it's part of the haunted house. No one's going to show up.
Yeah.
Like
I don't think it escalated because before the Mia episode happened on the rooftop, the other rooftop when he kills her, is that again, students are together, like 2 or 3 girls, and they're like, I think Mia is having this relationship with the teacher. And they're like, really? Yeah, it's kind of weird because he's staying here the entire night because they kind of like sleep over as well, I guess. And they see her walking away towards the rooftop and they're like, shall we go after her? And then the other girl's like, no, just let it be. And then that moment where Mia gets thrown off and the other girl's right at the door. She's like, oh. And she's like, where's Mia? And I'm like, oh no, girl, the wrong place at the wrong time. That is the definition of that saying.
Yes.
And she walks on the rooftop and he basically like breaks her neck and it's done. And I think that is the moment that kind of triggered the whole situation, escalating.
Yeah.
Because he had to kill another kid that was not part of the plan because he just wanted to look like a suicide thing. So then things started to escalate. Like he also called the teacher that has the homosexual relationship with the student, like, oh no, it's something is wrong with this kid. You have to come over. And because the signal is jammed with the phone, because the teacher right away starts to call the dude and he's like, damn, he's not picking up, so something is wrong. And all the kids slowly are like, hey, do you have a signal on your phone? No. And then slowly there is a sort of panic coming up, and then everything just explodes when he just fires first the shotgun, and it's just like, oh no, he goes like, is it first a shotgun and then he goes on this audio thing throughout the entire school? No, there's a man in here with a shotgun. You all have to go upstairs, like he's already trying to single them all out in one particular place.
What he does first is, like you said, he calls Kuma and tells him that there's some crazy shit going on. And at that point in time, he already had the shotgun and he already had it planned out. And I think he actually might have killed 1 or 2 people already. And then he went to the intercom room and said, hey, you need to get down here because basically Sensei Kume, the guy who was having the homosexual relationship with the student, like Sana said, Hasume calls him and is like, hey, the kid who he was having the sexual relationship with, Kuma is in deep shit. He's in big trouble. You need to get down here. And like she said, because Hasume knows how to jam the signal, he jams the signal. So when Kume calls, the phone just goes dead. And he's like, shit, I got to get there. My lover, my student who's my lover is in trouble.
Yeah.
So he rushes there. And here's another thing. I don't know if you noticed this, Sana. When right before it shows them as lovers at Kume and this kid, he meets him at a shooting range, and Kume is out there shooting like clay pigeons, and he's shooting. So when Hasume uses the shotgun in the haunted house, he wants to frame Kume for the murders because Kume is always at the range shooting shit. So it's easy for him.
He also says that, blame it on Kume.
Yeah, it's easy for him to frame Kume because Kume is always out shooting guns. That's how he met this kid who became his lover. Like, the kid wanders over to him on this range shooting stuff, and he's like, oh, you're good. And then they start the sexual relationship, and he just knows it. Like, Hasume just knows. And another thing that I love about the movie, too, is this must be something with Takashi Miike, his direction. There's a flashback of Hasume's life because Hasume apparently lived in Japan for a while, and then he went to a school for law in Japan, and then he left after like 6 months or a year or something. And he came to Harvard in America and started studying something with like business, and he worked for a bank in the States, and then he eventually goes back to Japan to be a teacher. Well, during these flashbacks, he's a psychopath. And while he's in America, he meets this other psychopath. I think his name was Dave. And they basically become partners. And there's like some scenes where they're carrying like buckets of bodies just filled with blood and skeletons and intestines and organs and shit. So basically, Dave helps Hasume become like a more lethal, a more experienced killer. And because Hasume is really like, Hasume is more devious. Like, this Dave guy just kills for pleasure. Like, he wants to have fun. And Hasume's like, I don't do that. And he hits him over the head with like this billy club and knocks his partner out, puts him in a fucking barrel, dumps gasoline in it, and lights the fucking guy on fire. So like, he kills his partner. And then throughout the movie, he has like these hallucinations and flashback of his friend or his ex-partner, Dave, who like shows up to him like all burnt. He's this charred, like fucking burned, like Freddy Krueger looking fucking guy. And at one point in the movie, the shotgun that he's using to kill all of the students and like massacre all the students, like gets possessed by this Dave guy, and like his eye is on the gun, like talking to Hasume. He's like, "You did, you're the killer." It's fucking weird, man, but it's so cool. That's definitely Takashi Miike's like supernatural, like comedic flair in there, which is fucking great. Like, I love that too. That was awesome.
They always bring something unrealistic in there that you just know, like, snap, it is a movie. Because you get so deep into it, because he always picks the right stories that get you so inside the story, but then he brings in something unrealistic to snap you right out of it. Like, oh no, wait, this is a movie. Because it's an actual mindfuck that you're watching. And just in case that you're wondering, so what happened to the teacher that figured it all out with the student? When he hears them talk, he basically visits Suri in the metro or the tram or the train, whatever it is. And he sees them sitting there and he's like, "Oh, konbanwa, can I sit here?" And, you know, Suri is kind of like already like, I don't know about that. And he carries it back, I think with a stone in it. And he just smacks him on the head. And it's just like, whoa, you see him. But then he hangs it like one of those things that you can hold in the tram, you know, in case it's packed. He hangs Suri in there so that it looks like it's suicide. Again, that it will not go back to him. The next day, when it's announced at school that Suri unfortunately passed away due to suicide, it's a nice way for Hasumi to figure out who was the other person that was with him, because he doesn't know it, because the name is never dropped, because that person will panic. And Keisuke, the student, starts to panic, starts to run, and starts to look in the classroom like, where is that signal? Where did he come? Where did he pick it up? And then he notices the thing, and then I think he says again, magnificent or excellent.
Mm-hmm. He says magnificent, yeah.
And then this whole torture thing starts. But then he kind of like left in doubt, like, did he actually kill him? Well, obviously, but you just see the torture scene, and then that's it. Later, it's confirmed when he's smiling, I'm sorry, it was an act of God, that he was indeed murdered by Hasumi.
Yeah. That part was like, that was like some tension there. I was like, holy shit, is he gonna kill this kid right in the middle of fucking school?
Yeah.
That scene, like, what's Sana saying? They're having like this meeting and like this, I don't know, assembly because Suri's dead. Obviously, Hasume killed him, like Sana said, hung him in the fucking train station. And the thing about that scene too was like nobody was on the train. Like, it was an empty train. There was like 2 people on it, and there was like 2 people sleeping, so they didn't see jack shit. Hasume hits him with the stone and hangs him. They have the assembly honoring Suri the next day. Oh, he was a great teacher. He committed suicide. Well, this kid, like, what's his name? Kasuke?
Yeah.
He fucking runs out of the assembly room, and he's like, fuck. And he runs into Hasume's room, and he's like, where the fuck does he have this shit mic'd up at so he can hear a conversation? And what happened is, at the beginning, you can see it earlier in the movie, Hasume puts these audio microphones inside electrical outlets. Like a genius, right? Take the faceplate off of the electrical outlet and put mics in there. And what Sana said, like, Cascio looks up because he looks under the desk and he's looking all around the room, like in the tiles and shit, and he can't find it. And then he looks straight ahead, and it like the camera focuses in on the electrical outlet. It's like he found it. And then as soon as it focuses in on the electrical outlet, you can hear like Hasumi like in the back. He's like, magnificent. And he goes up to confront him, and this kid knows that he's the killer. Like at this point in time, this kid's like, okay, Suri didn't just fucking off himself. Like you killed him. And this kid has a butterfly knife, and he pulls it out. And he goes to like stab Hasumi, and then it just like fades to black. And it shows Hasumi like a couple seconds later just sitting there, like he's crying over Suri's fucking death.
Yeah, because the girly classmate, his best friend, is popping in. So
yeah.
Who, by the way, warned Keisuke when he was telling her about the other student that also got killed, I forgot his name, about what he found out with Suri about Hasumi. And she already warned him. She's like, your life is in danger.
Exactly. And yeah, that scene, and like Sana said, you don't know if he's dead or not, but then after this girl leaves, because Hasumi is sitting there pretending he's crying over Suri, and he's like, I just needed some time, I didn't want anybody to see. And this girl like ends up just, I know, he's so believable though. She gets up and leaves, and then
she runs away. She's scared.
Yeah, it pans to like this. It pans to this podium in the classroom where Hasumi sits when he gives his lectures, or stands when he gives his lectures, and it shows the kid like his foot like tied up, like he got bound and tied up. So Hasumi obviously disarmed him, put him behind his fucking booth, and then there's a couple different scenes in the movie where Hasumi drives like this white pickup truck. And in the back of this white pickup truck, you always see like this black body bag and a shovel. So you're assuming like every time he kills somebody, he puts them in this black body bag and just like buries them somewhere. It never shows you where it's at. It just shows him taking this body somewhere and disposing of it. And it's like, it's really cool. And there's a lot of cool shit in there with Norse mythology too. And Sana and I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. There's like a couple connections with that. There's a call to like Germanic stuff too. Like they talk about Goethe, the writer, and some of his work, and some of the characters that he created that commit suicide in there. There's a German songs playing like we spoke of earlier, the song about the killer that he listens to, like it gets him off. He's like, oh, this is my song, you know. And whatever, Maki the killer, Machi, whatever the fuck it is. And then there's two ravens outside of like where he lives, and he lives in like a shitty like residence. It's like in the middle of nowhere, like the shack that's just like there's nothing in it. It's just like it's almost looks like it's abandoned from the outside. And there's ravens that come like in front of his shack and sit there, and one's supposed to be human and one's supposed to be Munin from, you know, thought and memory from Norse mythology. And it was really cool because he starts talking about, like, it shows the ravens at the beginning periodically, and then there's one scene where like it really showcases the ravens, and like Hasumi is just talking about like the ravens themselves, and he's like, thought and memory, they brought Odin orders, they taught him, they let him see everything in the world, blah blah blah. So it's almost like it's almost like Takashi Miike is kind of like giving you a piece of his psychosis too, like his craziness, being like, this is actually what he thinks. Like he actually thinks he's like a god. He actually thinks he's like descended from these fucking beings. Like he's just like this magnificent being of like power, you know? It's like, it's really cool how all that shit ties together in the movie.
I'm going to take a quick peek at the notes just in case we forget something totally awesome before we jump into the whole. Did it just freeze? I think it did. Is it me? Or is it Joe? Who is freezing? Does anyone know?
I'm back. I'm here.
I was crying. I was like, no, Piccolo.
Shut
So I'm taking a quick peek, but by the way, we can just Louis acknowledging the Pizza Squad.
Pizza Squad. Louis said I was Frozone. I'm back, Louis.
Woo!
I'm unfrozen. I'm thawed out.
I'm sorry for the silence, people. I have
No,
to
hey,
think.
I got a point while someone looks at our notes here. Another thing that I really enjoy about the movie is some of the stuff, some of the little hints that you see in the movie, like Sana was talking about earlier. I don't know if you picked up on this, Sana. At the very beginning, Sensei Ajuro, the guy who gets hung in the subway, the physics teacher who picks up on all this shit and pieces it all together, like investigates it, he actually has a book on psychopaths. Do you remember that part? He actually picks up a book and he's looking at it, and it says like psychopathic behavior in this book, and he's like paging through it in the classroom at night, like he's in school and looks through it, and he realizes like that's when he starts to piece together that this guy's a psychopath.
Yeah, it's something with weather, or I don't know how to pronounce because there was the title of the book was there, which is based on a German book from 17.
Yeah. The Goethe book is called Werther, Werther, and then the effect is called the Werther effect. It's where people like when the Werther book came out, people started committing suicide. Like in real life, like this isn't from the movie. Like in real life, when Goethe published that book and it came out and it got mass produced, because you had like, I don't know if you guys are historians out there or studied history, but the Gutenberg Bible, when it got like super produced, when they started making the press that could just churn out a bunch of pages of paper, because back in the day people had to write shit by hand. They had to write like folios out. So when they created this type press, it could mass produce books. So by this time, when Goethe published this, it was being mass produced and a bunch of people were reading it. People got so depressed from reading the book because the character kills himself at the end, because it's a depressing read, like the Werther thing. They would literally off themselves after they read it. They were like, my life sucks. I need to kill myself. I need to be like this character to fulfill something. And that's what Sana's talking about. It's called the Werther effect. And they bring that up in the movie because what happens is the Ajuro sensei and a couple of the other students are kind of looking at this book and they're like, well, what happened in that school that he taught at where these kids were killing themselves? Was it the Werther effect? What was it? So they're kind of like investigating it. So, yeah.
The tables are reversed. Now Joe is throwing in the knowledge. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, but you've heard it. You've heard it.
Well, I saw it in the movie. I mean, he's one of those writers I still want to dive into. I mean, there's so many writers to dive into still. Fuck. God damn it. So when the last part happens, I mean, you have to understand that the last part of the movie is like almost an hour of madness, pretty much. If you ever have watched Battle Royale, it's just massive massacre. And still some of them, when he does this announcement, they all cat hair. Sorry. He tells them to all go up there and wait until the man mysteriously or miraculously leaves.
Yeah.
And some of the students there are like, I don't trust this. We should split up. And some of them are like, no, we should stick together. And others are like, there is a public payphone that maybe we can use. So they start to slowly all divide. And
the thing that's so funny about that, though, is, Sana, I'm glad you mentioned that scene, because I was thinking it like when you said it. The thing that's great about that is, like, he is a teacher, okay? This Hasume guy. And basically, like, what Sana's saying is, he gets on the intercom system and he's like, there's an intruder in the school. This is a Sensei Hasume. He doesn't say his name, but it's Sensei Hasume. And he's like, there's an intruder in the school. Everybody go to the roof, because that's where you need to go in order to survive. He's on the first floor. and Hasume's on the first floor. So he kind of is indicating to a certain extent, like he's trying to fend off the killer, like just bullshitting. Like, I'm on the first floor, he's here. Run now and get out of here. Like this false sense of security. But the funny thing is, I know I said this before, and I don't know if anybody's, heard what me mention this. I work in law enforcement, and we have like a similar protocol just in case anybody would ever come into, our precinct or our office or the courthouse I work in. We have to barricade the doors, and it's called run. You never run. You stay and fight. Like, that's the philosophy. So I think it's called Lesson of Evil, and it's really cool because he's trying to teach the kids a lesson. And here's the thing. If the kids wouldn't have been so terrified and they would have band together, I mean, there's literally like over 100 kids. They could have easily fucking like taken him on. And I mean, sure, some of them were going to die, but if all 100 of them would have walked down the hallway where he was at and like fucking ganged up on him, they could have easily like taken him out. It was just, I think that's the cool point of his character too. The irony is he's trying to teach them a lesson by fucking with their minds. Like,
yeah,
in a way, he's like, do this, but he really wants you not to do it. Like and some of the kids actually do barricade a room and set things up. And, but by that point, like Sana said, there's just too many of them that are like just fucking crazy and going nuts and just running and splitting up, that it's like he basically gets his way. He like Sana said, it's just like one big mind. Yeah, one big mind.
The panic will
yeah
blow your mind. You will not think straight. Like, he talks on the intercom. He tells everyone, well, there's a shooter in school. Like, everyone go upstairs. Like, if there's a shooter there, like, you wouldn't say, like, everybody go upstairs. Like, if there was a shooter there, like, oh, wouldn't he just, like, go there to take care of it? But then again, it's panic. And you have to place yourself in their shoes. Like, what would you do? Would you run away? Would you stay? Like, because everyone is like, yeah, but if you run away, you will get killed. And then the few that stay, they hear footsteps, so they start freaking out. And oh my god! And then he's like, "It's Sensei Hasumi," and like, "Sensei," and they all start to like walking down the steps, relief, like, "Oh, it's over." And then he puts on like in American Psycho, what you said, like he puts on his jacket to cover his suit.
Yes.
And then he just basically shoots the first girl that's there. It's like, oh, I remember the first time watching it, I was like, wait, what? And then everybody is like running back upstairs. It's only like a stair and a half that they still have to run, and then they're basically all blocked or locked up in a corner. And so he just starts shooting randomly. So you see them all panicking, and there's one that stays on the stairs because she's like so afraid she cannot move anymore, that he just like shoots anyways. And even the guy that jumps off the stairs, he just like, oh my god.
Yeah, he lets nobody. He like at this point in time, after that girl comes up and discovers he throws Mia off the roof, like his whole fucking plan is to massacre the entire fucking student body in the school. He doesn't want to leave anybody left. And here's another thing, son. I was just thinking about it. That one kid who fucking runs away and gets help. Like somebody call. He's like an archer. Like he has a bow and arrow, and he's like good at archery in school. The fucking idiot comes back to save his girlfriend. Like he comes back to save her. And that scene, oh my god, tell me about that fucking scene. What happens, son? What happens to the poor fucking kid?
Well, first, the students that are still in the school, and by the way, just hello, Jeff, the ceiling. They had come with this idea that they maybe could climb down with the rope. I think it was a rope, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I don't know, the girl slipped for some reason.
Oh my goodness. Well, she slipped because I don't know if you guys ever used a rope before to climb, but like I used to do it in martial arts because we had to do rope climbing. It will like sometimes we had to wear like Kevlar gloves to climb the rope because a real traditional strong knot, like really sturdy twine rope will literally cut your fucking hands up big time. Like it burns so bad when you're sliding down it or using it to climb up. Your hands will literally get like sliced open. Like your hands will bleed if you don't wear like protective equipment to do it. So what happened was the reason why she slid off was because as she was climbing down the rope, her hands were so just like rub raw from sliding down the rope, just like skin on the rope, that she couldn't hold on anymore. So there's probably like 25 feet until she's at the bottom level, and she can't do it. So she's like, let's go. And when she falls, like she fucking like breaks her legs. And she's like, like laying there. So what happens after that, son? After she fucking just wharfs it, what happens?
Well, she tries so hard to walk away. And basically the code now for all the students is the code of silence. Do not make a noise, so he will never figure out where the fuck you are. The boy comes running back, and that is the girl that he wanted to ask out to go to a concert with.
Satomi!
And he sees her struggling, and at one point he's like, Satomi! And it's like, right away, he knew he made the mistake, like, oh my god. And then you see the next shot, which, I mean, it's fucked up, but it just goes to show what an amazing actor he is. That you see him in the hallway, the teacher, and you see him turning like, did I just hear that? And he just...
more shells in the shotgun.
So he first aims at the girl, but then he's like, oh wait, there's the other kid. He's running. Let's stop him. Because she cannot walk anyways, so it's an easy target. So this guy goes on full-on Hawkeye, tries to like aim him, but I think he would have hit him if the other guy wasn't so fucking good with the fucking shotgun, you know? So I don't even know if that even like realistic what happened with the bullet and like the arrow hits the bullet and it just, I don't know, like goes matrix and it separates, and you basically see the bullet still go straight to the kid, and then and he falls down. And it's like, oh my god.
But I will say this. What's up, G-Man? The thing that's cool about that scene is, okay, it's not realistic at all. All right, like I said, like I don't know if anybody's ever shot a shotgun before, but from that range where he was at, there's no fucking way he was hitting the girl on the ground or that kid. Because what happens is when you fire a shotgun, it's a spread. What it is a bunch of mini pellets that explode and just spread out. It's not like a regular bullet. That's why when you buy shotgun shells, they're in cartridges, because you put a cartridge in, and when it releases from a chamber of a shotgun, when the shell releases, a spread of bullets come out like little pellets, like BBs almost, but they're really high velocity because it's in a big ass gun with a lot of powder in it. And that's what causes it. Like, if you ever played shooting games or fighters or you're getting weapons, when you get a shotgun, it's really good up close and personal. Like, if somebody's standing like 10 or 15 feet away from you or 5 feet away from you, it'll fucking wipe out a fucking ton of people. But if you try to do it long range, like 40, 50 feet away, it's just going to spread. It only goes so far. Like, it just doesn't have that range because the trajectory is not there, because it's a cartridge. It's not an actual bullet. So the scenes I was talking about is it fucking, like she said, the Matrix shit. Hasumi's so good. This kid fires an arrow. It flies right. I mean, like she said, if this guy wasn't so good, he probably would have got hit in the fucking head with an arrow. But the BB spread out like they do when a shotgun shell explodes or comes out of the chamber. And one of the pellets, literally just one fucking pellet, hits the head of the arrow and like knocks it off course a little bit, like diverts it. So it like fucking just runs right by him and doesn't even hit him. And then, but the pellet spread ends up hitting the kid who came back for his girlfriend. And like, it cuts to like behind him and you see like his fucking just gut spill out. And he's like, oh, and he just fucking falls and dies.
So sad.
Yeah.
Like he literally died for love.
He could have lived.
And what you just said about the shotgun in the video games, if Widow Gamer is still here, she would give you a high five right now, because I know that with Resident Evil and the Evil Within, she always wanted the shotgun. High five, girl. But it doesn't end there. Oh.
Nice. Is it a sawed-off? Sawed-off's legit.
Well, this goes over my head, so. But it's your thing, I guess. I mean, I'm not American. We don't hold guns for fun.
I work in law enforcement. I need to have that shit.
Ooh.
Very nice, G-Man. Very, very nice indeed.
So when shit goes down, all these kids, there are like 4 or 5 of them that want to go to that payphone as we were talking about earlier. All of them pretty much die. And it is such a depressing way how they all die, because you see them so nervous and panicking, like the phone is not working. What are we going to do? And then they see the teacher, they feel somewhat relieved, but then he shoots one kid down, and then they start to freak out, like, wait, it's our own teacher that is shooting? Why? And that's just, I mean, Japan, you can say a lot of things about Japan, but with these type of movies, even though it's so disturbing, these kids, grown-ups, they can act like you really just feel like
Oh my God.
intense, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, it is so like the way that they're screaming. Like, I posted a trailer today, so you saw kids screaming. Like, you're in deep panic. What would you do, right? And you
Well,
see,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. You see what? I'm sorry.
kids hiding sometimes all by themselves. Like that one girl that just it looks like at the tiles, like it looks like a shower area, and she's just like shaking in the corner, and he's just like, or that one point where it starts with the kid that wants to go to university so bad, and he gets shot, and he's like, "But Sensei, I have to go to the Todai University," and he turns around and he just turns it in, because he's an English teacher. He just turns it into, "Oh, Todai."
Yeah. You know what? I didn't mean to cut you off earlier, and that's exactly what I was gonna say. Not that scene, but like the actual just emotion you feel, because like Sana's saying, like, you guys seriously have to watch this movie if you're into like the horror and thriller and serial killer kind of stuff. The thing that's so like sad and depressing, and like it really is evil. And the thing, I love how Takashi Miike calls it Lesson of Evil, because it really makes me think, especially at the end when he just massacring all these kids. Literally, these students are seeing their fellow classmates, their friends, probably their neighbors, probably people who live in their community, people they've probably known for years. They probably went up through all the grades or whatever with, getting slaughtered.
And they know the next.
Yeah, but the thing that's so cerebral about it, and so like makes this character like Hasume such a mind fucker, like literally, is even when they're getting killed, some of them are still like grabbing onto his leg and like, please, Hasume, this isn't you. This isn't you. Like they're basically crying out for like, you're Hasume. You're not like this. This isn't you. What happened? This isn't you. And he's just like, he doesn't even give a fuck. He's just blowing them away. Like he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I think it really is a really cool study on psychopaths and sociopaths and people who have antisocial personality disorders to the fucking extreme. Like this guy, and it really ties into the Norse thing too, because now I'm thinking about it. He actually thinks that he is above these people. Hey, Sean, how are you, buddy? He actually thinks he's above these kids. He thinks that he is just like this ultimate being. Like he does think that he's a god. And if you think about Norse mythology and you think about Norse gods and just gods in general from a lot of different, polytheistic religions that used to happen in antiquity, they didn't give a shit. They're like, I want to fucking kill whatever I want, do whatever I want, be whatever I want. If people die, tough shit. That's exactly how he feels. He's like, and at the end of the movie, he says, like, Sana mentioned this earlier, this was an act of God. And I told Sana this because it was like an observation that I thought in my head. I don't know how fucking far-fetched it is or not, but I was like, at the end, he's like, this was an act of God. It had to happen. And he looks over at this girl and this kid who actually end up surviving. We'll tell you about that in a second. But one of them has the eye of Munin the Raven in her eye. He calls her Munin, and the one kid's like, he's a fucking psycho. He's just crazy. And the girl's like, no, he's not. His game's just begun. And when she says that, I'm sitting there thinking, like, is he like the reincarnation or the embodiment of the god of mischief, Loki? Like playing games with people, creating all this havoc and chaos and destruction and death just because he wants to do it for fun? Like I don't know. Like I said, is it far-fetched of me to think of that? I don't know. I mean, maybe. Who knows? But that's what I got from it at the end when he does that. Like, it was like, I think this fucking guy's like Loki. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and I didn't think of it like that, you know. And as you said before, like in a different stream, like I say this, you say that, and then it combines and it works out. One of those sad moments as well is after the kid that gets shot for the university, because it's very close to where two other students are, and I don't know, they start freaking out, and they are like outside of the window on a ledge. Is that what you call it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is just where you get to see also how fucked up mankind can be in tough situations, because she starts yelling at him like, you should have closed the window, you idiot. And then he shoots the guy, and she starts yelling at him while his body is dropped, like, oh, you got what you fucking deserved, and blah, blah. And then she's up next. But it just really also, it brings out the ugliness of people, because that is also when panic happens, you know, like some people push you to the front. No, you, like, also the kid that wanted to go to university that started to,
the kid with the glasses,
yeah, who started to say to, like, oh no, it's your fault, you ugly cow, you should have untied that. And you know, the ugliness comes out also with, oh, your fanboy.
What's up, Keys?
Whoop, whoop. I have a question for you. If a movie like this was made,
For me, a question for me.
For me. If this movie was made and released in America, the whole fucking school shooting stuff, what would the reaction be? What do you think? Because, you know, we had 20 years ago, we had like some, well, more, I guess, in America.
Oh, you know what? I don't know. It's hard to say, Sana. I think right now over here with the political climate, it definitely would not be well received. But I want to say this too, and this is my personal opinion. Please take this with a grain of salt, people who are listening. Like, I'm not telling you what to believe or what to think or what you should do. This is my personal viewpoint, my personal opinion, what I think about it. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just a belief. Okay. I can remember back in the 90s when I was a kid and I played first-person shooters and violent video games and all that kind of stuff. And I can remember people in school telling me, if your kid, or telling my mom or my dad, if your kid keeps playing these kind of games, he's going to get desensitized. And when something like that happens, he could turn into a fucking psycho. Okay? I don't fucking believe in that. Okay? To a certain extent, I can see how it could influence somebody to do that. But I think if you have a proper upbringing with good folks, a good family, you're surrounded by good people, people who show you right from wrong. And I do this every day for a living. It's exactly what I do. I see this every day. There's kids who come from bad families who don't teach them between right and wrong. There's kids who come from bad families who learn from right and wrong because they don't want to be like the people who have not taught them anything. But there's also people who come from shit who taught them the right way and they still disregard it. Some people, just like the guy in this movie, are fucked up. Okay, it's that simple. Yeah. This movie is an art form. And that's what I said. Don't take it. Just take what I'm saying here with a grain of salt. Just because this Hasumi guy is a mass murderer and he's going out and, you know, doing this in a school. Let's be honest here. Shit like that does happen every day. I mean, it has happened. It has happened in the States where I live. I mean, it has happened. But do I think if this was released over here, it would have a negative reaction? I think yes, it would. But the reason I think so is because a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing art and that kind of thing from reality. And the people who are obsessed with that kind of stuff are just sick in the head. I mean, that's just the way it is. Like, if you're going to do that and go do what he does in the movie in real life, then you have a fucking problem. I watched the movie. You watched the movie. I'm sure millions of people watch that movie, but you don't see them going out doing what he did, you know? I think that's a good point about the whole movie in general, like a lesson of evil. It goes back to the title again, right? Take a lesson from this movie and don't fucking do the shit that he does. Be a fucking good person. And like Sana was saying, you can really see the ugliness in people. They're basically blaming each other because other people were fucking getting killed from a psychopath. These kids are like, you should have untied the fucking rope. Why didn't you close the fucking window, you idiot? Now we're going to die because of you. And it has nothing to do with the other kid. That kid is in just as much danger as you are. It's not his fault. He's not the one with the gun in his hand fucking blowing people away. Like, people need to understand that. Like, you kind of just do the right thing. You know, just fucking do the right thing. Don't be a psycho at the end of the day. It's that simple, right?
And not just that, how about the music? I mean, if we're talking about the 90s, I remember that any Marilyn Manson fan out there that was just a target of, you are a murderer.
Absolutely.
You must be thinking of killing people.
Louis said, like, Mortal Kombat and blood. Louis, I actually tricked my mom into getting me Mortal Kombat because she thought it was like a ninja game. And I can remember playing it with my kid brother, and the one like level where you uppercut somebody and they fall into the bed of spikes. She walked in like while I was playing it with my brother, and she was like, "Oh, why are you guys playing it?" But like, my dad came in and he was like, "Game looks pretty cool. I think I'll play." My dad was cool, you know. Like, my mom was like all freaking buying into the other shit, and I was just like, "But I'm not a psycho, you know. I'm crazy."
Yeah, I mean, me and my brother had the same thing, you know, with our mom, because as I told you yesterday when we were talking about tomorrow's amazing stream, I told you, like, for me, it was either growing up with Disney movies or action martial arts movies, and, you know, you see people getting killed, you see people getting fucked, like, literally. But she allowed me to watch it, and I was like 4 or 5 years old. Like, there was no restriction really, and I think in her case, it was more like, if I'm going to forbid them for watching it, they will become more curious, and then something might develop out of it.
I was just going to say that. Exactly. I think if you don't show people what it actually is like, then when they do discover it later, it might be a bad time. Because think about it. If you're a kid and you're watching this shit, some of it is like scary, and you're like, oh shit, I don't want to do that. It's kind of like teaching you a lesson, even though it's not supposed to. Like, if you watch a horror movie when you're a kid and you watch something and you're fucking scared of it, you're like, man, that's pretty scary. I don't want that shit to happen. But if you watch it as an adult, you're like, that'll never fucking happen. You know? Like, you kind of have an appreciation for it more when you experience it, I guess you could say, and understand it, as opposed to, like you said, not seeing it ever, then watching it and being like, that's cool. Maybe I'll actually do that. Like, no, don't fucking do that. You should be scared. So, yeah.
Yeah, like, I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things like martial arts because my mom would know that I would come home with a broken neck or something like that, or someone else would come home with a broken neck, because I always get too into it, and when it gets slightly bored, like, oh, it's becoming a bit too repetitive, you know. Like, I had 2 broken wrists once, you know, one's due to skating and one due to jumping out of a high wall, because my dad let me walk it. I think it was like 6 or 7, and there was a wall that would go up, and my dad let me walk it, and I was like, so that helped me getting off this thing. He's like, oh no, you can walk back. And I was like, walk back? Fuck that shit. So I jumped off, and then my wrist started to feel a bit funny. And then I got home, and I was like, Mom, it feels a bit weird.
Yeah. Shit like it happened. I mean, we've talked about this now for a while. Like, my mom wouldn't let me skateboard, and I love skateboarding. Like, all the people I hung out with skateboarded. So, listen, I was a dick as a kid. My parents beat my ass on a daily basis because, well, I was a bad kid. So, I got a skateboard behind their back off one of my friends. I bought it off of him with like my allowance money. And I can remember I was skating, and I probably was skating for like a month or so, and I just learned how to do like an acid drop. I don't know if you ever heard of that trick, but you get up on like this high thing and you just jump off and land like on your board. So there was like this thing in a park. I jumped off, landed on my knee, and missed the board, and a big old chunk came out. So obviously, I'm gimping home with a chunk out of my leg, and there's blood everywhere. My mom's like, "What the hell happened to you?" I was like, "Oh, nothing." I was like, I tried to make up some bullshit. I was like, some dog or something fucking attacked me, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh, really? A dog, huh? And then my Canadian buddy comes up and he's like, hey, Joe, you forgot your board. And I was like, an idiot. And he hands me like this board I had a Dark Star board. And like, oh my God. She literally was like, you're grounded forever. And it was, I never skateboarded again after that. She would always just be like, you're not hanging out with those people, blah, 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 blah. But I was in karate and martial arts too for a different reason. I told you this before. I got put in it because I was a bad kid. I was always starting fights. I can remember in martial arts, I broke a couple people's noses. I busted some people's lips. I broke some dude's arm one time. Like I was out of control. I needed that though. I needed that learning experience. I needed a lesson of evil.
Yeah. My mom would think that I would be like you, just walking up to people and just like, or vice versa. Like, by the way, a compliment to ourselves because it's now 1 hour and 10 minutes and we start derailing. It's a first.
Salute.
Saluti a tutti. Like, for example, in school, I liked football, as you call it, soccer. But when it became mandatory, I didn't want to do it. I was like, fuck it. I don't want to put any effort in it. Fuck you. But they always put me in the team, the teachers. Why? Because they knew I was that bitch. They knew I was the bitch that would kick you on purpose so you would fucking trip. They knew with handball that I would not aim for the goal. No, I would aim for you, motherfucker.
Oh my God, I love playing handball. Yes, I was just going to say that. I love
Yeah.
Oh my God. I hurt so many kids with handball. Like so bad. There was this one kid who was a goalie, and I swear to you, every time I was not shooting for the goal. I could easily get it in. I just wanted to well it at his body. And he'd be like, oh. He'd be like, Jesus.
They would try to catch it, and the finger would go backwards. I was like,
I did crazy shit like that too.
Yeah, it was fucked up.
But look at us now.
So angelic. I just only longing for pepperoni pizza.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh,
you had some today, right? Did you have something?
Yeah, you too, right? We were twinning. Yeah. Fuck. We're sending each other pictures of the food that we were eating.
Yeah.
Next up are nudes.
Pepperoni pizza nudes.
No,
but I kind of want to talk about that for a second when we kind of just talking about it, just encapsulated here. Isn't it funny how we just talked about how experiencing that stuff as a kid and learning from it makes you a better person? Like, seriously, like our own lessons of evil. Like, no shit here. Like, our own lessons of evil. At one point in time, I'm going to be like straight up. I was a dick. Like, I was just a dick. I started shit for no reason. I picked on fucking people. And I was telling Santa this the other day. Martial arts and them kicking my ass on a daily basis really opened my eyes to be like, hey, look, you can't be doing this. You need to learn respect. You need to learn how to treat human beings as equals. And I think it goes back to the movie, and it does tie in because he didn't do that. Like, the character Hasumi didn't treat anybody as equals. What's up, Gabby? He treated them as lesser than him.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
That was one of the first things that my mom always taught me. Treat others how you want to be treated. Though sometimes I treat people like trash.
Yeah, exactly. But you're right, because my parents did the same thing. They said treat others how you wanted to be treated. I just couldn't grasp it until after I had already got my ass beat in martial arts to be like, okay, I understand now that I can't do what I'm doing because this person who is fighting me with a kendo stick is hitting me just like I'm hitting him, and I don't like it. So if I want to treat him with respect, he'll treat me with respect. And seriously, I had to grasp that over time. I can literally remember like myself thinking like, I need to respect this person and show reciprocity. If I'm negative to him, he's going to be negative to me. If I'm positive to him, he'll be a positive influence to me. And like the character in the movie doesn't get that. He's like, everybody is negative. I am the only fucking thing that matters. Like, whoa.
And then to go back, because now I'm getting into Joe's chair, because he's usually the one to, let's bring it back. There's one point in the movie where they do this fire training, where they have to learn how to escape when there's a fire. And there's this, what do you call it? Like a sack, a tube, whatever, that goes out of the window.
Yeah, it's like an escape chute, sort of like an escape tube that you just slide down. Yeah, it's like an escape slide, sort of like a claw slide.
So they're practicing that. And at one point, they're like, the two kids that were with Keisuke, the one that got killed because he knew all the information, they are the ones that are still in the school. And you have to understand that this teacher is so fucked up. He literally has a list of all the names and he scratches off who he has killed. So he's like, 2 left. So the girl is like, can we escape from that fire escape thing? He's like, no, that's going to be a bad idea. But actually, and then you see another scene, blah, 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 blah. And then it comes back that you actually see this thing being thrown out of the window and it makes noise, so it attracts attention. And I think they just use other bodies that they put on their uniform because they're from a different class, so it would be seen, because now the kids are being smart, right? So they throw them out on the tube and he just starts shooting them, and then some extra shots because he's extra like that. And they just basically sit there all like shaking in the corner, just waiting for someone to come and save them. And luckily the other hero of the day, who died for love, he ran out to get someone to call the cops, and the cops were finally fucking coming. I think also when the cops got the call from the guy and they saw the school, and I think because those 2 guys who were saying like, oh, but he's an awesome, handsome teacher, they were there, and I think they knew right away, shit's going down, everything and everyone has to go there. And at this point, because he thinks he has killed all the children, and he hears the cops coming, which was not part of his plan. So he grabs the other teacher that he actually killed before, but puts a shotgun in his mouth to make it look like a suicide, throws himself on the table to injure himself, and then tie himself up. So he's already thinking this shit out. He's already starting to like, yeah, okay, so this teacher went rampage and all these kids died, and only he survived. As the grown-up, he didn't do anything. But, it makes sense in his head. And so the cops come in and they're like, oh, I'm so glad that you're here. Like, you're the only survivor and blah, 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 blah. And he acts all upset like the Oscar goes to. And then suddenly there's a cop screaming, there are 2 survivors. There are 2 survivors. And you see his face just game over. Like, he knows it's done for him at that moment in time. And you have the guy who starts freaking out like, you're a murderer, it's your fault, and then they basically try to rely on the girl because she's the only one. I mean, she's basically in shock, like, can you confirm it's this guy? And I think she only asked, does she say anything, or is it later? No, it was outside that she asked if he killed Keisuke. And it's the boy who figures like, hey, there is an actual recording machine or audio machine in the other room for evidence. The one one you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. What happens is in the movie, guys, earlier in the movie, it kind of goes. It also shows like these students before all the shit goes down, like what their daily life in the school is like. So it shows them in different classes. Like it shows them in art class. It shows them in his English class. It shows them in like kendo, physical education class. And then they have a health class. And in his health class, they're testing out defibrillators, like emergency defibrillators, and they're doing like a safety thing. And they actually test that shootout too that these kids end up putting the other students' bodies in. Well, the one scene that I want to talk about, the kid, some of the moments in it are pretty funny. Like the kids are joking around with each other, and then one kid's like, "Yeah, if you put it on your junk and I shock that," he's like, "you'll get the sensation." So the one kids are dicking around with his teacher in class, and the one kid puts the defibrillator on this kid's junk, and he literally says, he's like, "I never came that much before." And the teacher's like, "You know everything you say is recorded, right?" And he was like, "What?" And then what it turns out is like these machines, these emergency kits, these defibrillators have a recording function on them because they want to see when they actually use them in the field and act them, like to use the defibrillators, what the person who's getting shocked says to use in future, like to make the technology better in the future. So to see how they react to the shock or whatever. So what happens is in one scene, when he's in the school massacring these people in this haunted house, he walks into a room, and when he shoots the one kid, the kid falls back into the defibrillator and knocks it open, and the green light comes on and starts recording. Well, there's another kid in there like scurrying away to try to get away, and he's like, "Why are you doing this, Hasume?" And Hasume's like, "This is not my doing." He's like, "This is Kumei's doing." And he shoots the kid and kills him. Well, Hasume didn't even realize that the thing was recording. He just walks around and starts killing like more kids. And that's what Sana's talking about. At the end, after those two survivors put their clothes on basically corpses of their fellow classmates and puts them down the escape tube, Hasume kills them, and he thinks he kills the entire class because, like Sana said, he's like writing their names out on a checklist, like, okay, there's 2 more left. I need to kill them. And you know what, Sana? I'm going to say this. I don't think when the SWAT team came and they stole everything, and here's another thing too, he tries to burn the building down. He puts like kerosene in there and has a flare and he catches the building on fire too. Like, I think already he had that planned because when he knocks Kumei out and kills Kumei, he puts Kumei's shoes on, remember? And he starts walking around as he's killing the kids in Kumei's shoes. Because remember when he talks to the kid, he's like, "Whose shoes are these?" And the kid's like, "Oh, Kumei." So like he already knew that. But I think when he after he slams his head off the desk and he has that bloody mark on his head and he's cuffed up or whatever, I think when the cops came, honestly, when I first saw it the first time, I felt like the cops thought he didn't do it. Like he was so like mesmerized about it. They were like, "Oh, really? Kumei did this to you? That's sick." And then when you said like as soon as the other officers came in and they were like, "Hey, there's 2 survivors," then he was like, "Fuck." Yeah. And he goes up to him and he says like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry you had to witness that. I'm surprised you 2 survived." Like kind of like being like acting like he's sympathetic, but at the same time being like, "Fucker survived." Like he's so sadistic.
Like he considered it a failure right away. Like, oh, it's so unfortunate.
But yeah, then when he gets handcuffed, because what happens is the one kid who's basically lashes out at him after they bring the 2 survivors in, he's like, "It was you piece of shit. You killed everybody. You're crazy, blah, blah." And the cops are like restraining him, and this kid's like, "Don't restrain me. What are you doing? He's the killer. He's the killer."
Yeah.
He tries to go over to the girl. Hasume doesn't talk to her. And the one detective then finally like touches him, and he's like, "No, you're not going any further." Mm-hmm. Then they put him in the cuffs. The kid finds the recording, and then they basically take him into custody. And then what happens at the end, Sana? Because, oh my God, the end was like a mind fuck for me. I was like, are you fucking serious? The very end of the movie, what happens? Like the very fucking last 30 seconds of the movie.
Well, you mean that the boy is yelling at him like, "You're fucking crazy"?
Like the very last credits. The very last credits of the movie. It's like right before the credits roll, what happens?
Oh, then like the dancing and stuff. That part.
Well, there's that, but the part after that.
I can't remember at the moment.
The part after that is, I don't know if you saw it. It cuts to Mia, who was laying on the fucking.
Oh yeah, she's alive.
Like, she's alive. She's like breathing. She's like, "Oh
yes,
Hasume." And it's like to be continued. I'm like, what the fuck is that? That
Yeah,
was
now I remember.
crazy, man.
No, I mean, again, it's such an unfortunate event for her. I mean, this is a girl just in love with a teacher. I mean, it's wrong already. And she just totally trusts him, and he knocks her unconscious. And then while he's taking her panties off to make it all look realistic with the sexual harassment, yeah, with
Oh, his name starts with S. His last name, the kendo instructor.
Shihabara. Sensei Shihabara, about the sexual harassment. Like, he takes off her panties. I mean, it's already so degrading for a woman, right? And he hangs her over the balcony thing. And the school skirts in Japan are already like kind of short, which is also a big deal in Japan, because especially around Tokyo, it's like too short. But whatever, right? And she is gaining her conscience again. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, she's coming. She was unconscious, knocked out from the fall, but then she starts to regain it. Yeah, she's coming back.
And then he basically just, as soon as she says his name, she just, whoops the legs, and she just falls. Like, you literally see her from a floor. Yeah, the window. You see her basically drop. Oh my god.
Her story, her character is so sad, but you know what? Another thing I want to mention too, I think we failed to mention this, is this movie is based on a book, and it's also based on a manga. So that's kind of cool too. So like, I'm gonna have to check this out now because like I said, I knew nothing about this movie until like earlier this week. Sana told me about it, and I'm glad I watched it because it was like a really deep. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's for everyone. I will say this, like, if you guys out there don't like gory movies or like super violent stuff or stuff that deals with like literally like mass murdering innocent people, it's probably not for you.
I mean, it is slice of life.
Yeah. But if you look at it as like a pure art form that's based on a book, a fantasy book, mind you, not a real one, a fantasy novel in a manga, and we all know how mature and violent and, cerebral and shit manga can be. If you look at it that way, maybe you'll be less serious about the movie and not take it so personal. Like the question someone brought up earlier about like what happens if it was released over here. I think if people actually realize it was based on something that's fictitious, a fantasy story, it wouldn't be so serious, But it's fucking insane. Like, it's an insane movie. Like, watching it, I was like, holy shit.
And it's not just the psychopath teacher. You have the other two teachers that sexually harass students. I mean, there is just so many things in the movie that is just like, what the hell is going on?
When a movie tricks you into thinking that he's a good guy, even for a split second, it's doing a fucking good job. Because when he went to talk to Mia, I actually for a second thought that he was just a killer and he was going to kill bad people. Like, I thought he was going to kill the physical education teacher who was trying to make Mia do sexual favors, and I thought, he's kind of like Dexter, like he like kills bad people. Then you find out, like, no, he kills whoever the hell he wants to kill. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. But
great.
then again, as we talked about Takashi Miike, how he always uses that one unrealistic thing in his movie. As I said, it just snaps you right out of it. Like, oh wait, this is a movie, because he has a way. He picks stories. Like, you have Ichi the Killer, which is, we will do that one day, which is another great movie of his, and 13 Assassins, and Audition. So many more movies he has done. Aside from Crow Zero, it's a bit unrealistic, but it's still badass. But he picks stories, and the way that he films it, and the actors that are in the movie, they just make it all so wholesome, but it's so convincing. They don't really get the credit. I don't really get this much. Is excitement a good word? When I watch a movie that is so fucking good that I'm actually just really just in shock. I don't really get that from American movies or I mean, just every now and then, I guess, when it's really like an art house movie. But these are just movies brought out in the regular, you know. These are the ones that are like at the cinemas in Japan, you know, the big movies. They always really captivate me, and along with Korean movies, Chinese movies. I mean, we cannot really sing, hence CinemAsian. That's why we're doing this. They really give me what I've been missing for years when it comes to Western movies, because unfortunately we're all being raised like, oh, all the good movies from the West, from America. America is the place to be. And then you meet this silly little country. And here's one thing that I always find so fucking stupid, right? When a kid is being questioned, why do you listen to K-pop? Why do you listen to J-pop? You don't understand the language. Yet, a lot of people are listening to Spanish songs while they don't speak a word of Spanish. Or here in Europe, they listen to German songs. They don't speak a fucking word of German or any fucking language. That is acceptable, but when it is something that is not really that popular because it's still more closed off over there, it's considered weird.
Well, that's kind of what I kind of want to piggyback off of that, because that's a good point. You mentioned the popular thing, and that's kind of where I think the problem lies. I think a lot of people do that and they criticize it because it's not popular. Like, for instance, you brought up a really good point, like when you talked about the languages. I can remember when Rammstein first came out over here, Rammstein, and like people were listening to that and they were like, "What do you listen to that for? It's so stupid. Like, it's dumb." And then, like, the same people like 15 years later now are like, "Oh, dude, Rammstein's legit. They're so good. So many sweet albums," because they're popular now, because they came like popular and they're like world famous. But like bands like we talk about, even some of the stuff I put in the streams, like nobody knows who over here. Nobody listens to Gact. Nobody listens to Buck Tick. Nobody listens to Malice Miser or Versailles. Or any
right now.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they're sweet. They're kick ass. But like, if you were to listen to that right now, if you went out like to a fucking like a store or a cafe or something and you had that on, people would be like, "What is that garbage?" It's like, right. I love it. Like, just because you don't like it. And I also want to talk about what you said with the movies too, because I understand what you're saying. The thing is, as an American, I live over here in the West. I live in America. I can count on my hand probably one hand or maybe two, give or take, directors over the past 100+ years who have actually churned out like absolutely phenomenal shit. Some of my favorite directors of all time are Stanley Kubrick, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. I love Christopher Nolan. I think his movies are really cerebral. Ridley Scott, I like a lot. And probably if I had to throw in like an honorable mention, it would be Steven Spielberg, right?
Though I think Martin Scorsese was really good in the 70s, maybe somewhere in the 80s. Those movies were fucking on point, but then it just got more like, oh, he's like the greatest director. Let's have Leonardo DiCaprio in it. I mean, I'm not saying Leonardo DiCaprio is a bad actor, but it's like Tim Burton has his Johnny Depp and his wife constantly in movies.
Yeah. But that's a good thing, like you said. I think I forgot about Tim Burton, but like you said, I'm a fan of his earlier work, like his later stuff. Not really a big fan of that. I love like the Batman movies. I love the like Sleepy Hollow and the early Edward Scissorhands and that stuff with Johnny Depp. But like later, it kind of just became. It's like you were talking about the movies. It just became not as powerful or as emotional. Like this movie we're talking about, like Lesson of Evil. The thing that's great about it, like you just mentioned, is I feel like everything over here now has to be like a franchise. Like, if it's not the MCU and it's not the fucking DC Extended Universe and it's not like a trilogy or a quadrilogy or 5-6 movies like Harry Potter, it's a piece of shit. Nobody goes to the cinema to watch like a standalone movie anymore. And I think...
And they were booting everything, right?
Yeah.
They cannot really think of anything original.
But that's the difference between the Japanese stuff we're talking about, because I feel like even Takashi Miike, like his movies, I know he has done some sequels, but he's done over 100 movies, and every single movie he does is like a standalone movie. Like, there are very few that are just like, this is a fucking quadrilogy. This is a 10-movie arc. Like, he doesn't do that shit. He does like Lesson of Evil. It's a standalone movie. Check it out. 13 Assassins. It's a standalone movie. Check it out. We talked about Man from Nowhere, the Korean flick. There's no sequel to that. It's fucking standalone. Like, that makes it all that much more powerful because I love John Wick, right? But there's going to be
I just wanted to mention John Wick. Like,
yeah, there's going to be 5 movies. There's going to be 5 movies. You can only do so much with like that revenge story over and over again. So how are you going to rehash that over? I love Keanu Reeves. Keanu, if you're watching, buddy, I love you. Today's your birthday. Today's Keanu's birthday. Happy birthday, Keanu. But 5 John Wick movies? I love it. I'm going to go see it. You're going to have my money because I'm a fan. But that's what...
I mean, 2 and 3 were really good.
Yeah.
They're really like rewatchable. Like I can watch them a bunch more times. But I think if they would have left it with just 1, it would have left you longing for more. Like, but what if they would have continued? Like, oh, this character was so cool.
Exactly.
I think that's also a thing with the West, that they just sometimes, when something gets a bit popular, they just want to overdo it constantly. They like all the reboots. Like, no, the new fucking Matrix is coming out. Like, dude, you did this fucking 20 years ago. What can you fucking deliver again? I mean, you guys died.
That's a good point too. I want to bring that up because you know what? I really don't care for the 2nd and 3rd Matrix movies. I don't think they're that good. The original, the Matrix, like the original, is a fucking masterpiece. But like 2 and 3 is like cringeworthy at some points. I'm like, I don't like that. 1 is
like 2 is like just the highway scene that I'm just like with the Mona Lisa Overdrive soundtrack on the highway. That was so fucking badass. But then the rest of the movie, I'm just like, meh. And then 3rd is like, well, why am I even watching this weird ass fucking orgy going on in the cave? And
exactly. Yeah.
Japan, Korea, Asia.
That's why we do CinemAsian streams, because Sana and I are passionate about that. And you know what? A lot of the stuff I say on here is like true to what I believe. I'm not like bullshitting or sugarcoating anything. I mean, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. Like, if you agree with me, cool. If not, cool. Like, I'm not telling. Sana says this, I say this. Do what you love. If you like what we do, awesome. We're glad to have you. If you don't like what we do, awesome. You know, be yourself. Do what you love to do. But this is our thing. This is what we like. This is what we like to talk about. We like to bullshit. We like to bounce ideas off of each other. We like to talk about goofy, crazy, serial killer Japanese movies with fucking Takashi Miike directing, you know?
I never watched The Office.
I've seen The Office, and, you know, Louis, you're right. I like the American version, but I like the British version with Ricky Gervais better. I just do. It's 1 season, you know? But I will say this about The Office. Here's my point. That is a comedy thing. You can have endless comedy movies. I mean, you can make fun of shit for days, you know? You can make fun of shit for years. I think if you're directing something that's really serious and you're trying to make a cerebral point or hit home with a point, you can only do so much of that before it gets like yawn worthy, where you're like Sana said about like the Matrix 2 and 3, where you're like, ooh, you know, you can only do so much.
Yeah, just like you have Terminator, or the Terminator and the Terminator Judgment Day. Those are I think 2 fucking good. But those are 2 great movies, right? And then Rise of the Machines. What was it, the 3rd one?
Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, yeah. With the
they should have learned from that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It wasn't amazing. No.
I thought it was good.
They should have like stopped right there. Like, they can never top the original and Judgment Day, but yet they kept continuing to the disaster that was just released.
I'm gonna say this though, okay? I am very, very biased when it comes to Schwarzenegger. I don't care if the movie is a heaping pile of shit. If it has Schwarzenegger in it, I'm gonna watch it. Just because, here's the thing, because he's one of my like lifelong heroes. Like, I grew up watching him. He was like it's more of a nostalgia thing for me. Like, he was a bodybuilder. I started working out and doing that kind of stuff because of that. It's more for that than the other shit. But you're right.
Just like,
I agree.
Just like with the Expendables, when Jean-Claude Van Damme was in there, and I was like, oh, praise the guy. I'm glad he's back. But then he's like, do not challenge me. I was like, oh my God. But I think they left it in just because it's just like Villain, his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, it's a sad story actually about Van Damme, to be honest. I mean, he fucking also represents my childhood. You know, Bloodsport. Was it Double Impact?
Yes.
Universal Soldier.
Universal Soldier.
Hard
Yeah.
Target.
Hard Target was legit.
What's
That was
the
a
other?
movie.
We have Bloodsport, Kickboxer.
Kickboxer was good. What about that movie he was in with Dennis Rodman? What the heck was that called? I can't remember, but I used to love that movie. He was badass in it. There's like a scene where there's like a tunnel and he jumps up inside of it and he's like doing a split like in this tunnel and he's like fighting people. What's like fucking Van Damme, baby?
I'm thinking like, what was the name again? Oh. What was that? No, Double Impact is the one where he's the twin, right? Alex and
yeah. I can't. It's been so long since I've seen those movies.
Or Time Cop. That was also kind of a failure, but you still watched it because Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme. But you know what's funny? He always just, because he's from Belgium, and in Belgium you either speak Flemish, which is a funny accent of Dutch, or you speak French. Another side fact is that when I, as a Dutch person, when I go to Belgium and they see that I'm from the Netherlands, they tend to speak just French. It's like, fuck you too, you baguette motherfucker. But they speak Flemish, right? But because they realize that I'm Dutch, they're like, oh no, fuck this Dutch person, right? It's probably just because I'm so awesome. But his parents, there was an interview, his parents spoke Flemish. Yet this motherfucker always speaks French. I'm like, are you just trying to be fucking like, oh no, I can speak French, the language of love. Duh!
Jean-Claude.
Double Team.
That's it. Yes, thanks, Keys. That's a good flick with Robin with like the yellow motorcycle and the jacket and the helmet. Oh, it's so good.
Boys have a penis and girls.
Oh my god! Classic. Reading, writing, arithmetics. Too much homework makes me sick. Oh, I love it. It's not a tumor. It's a ferret.
Which one was that again? Was that the one with Christian Bale?
Yeah, that's with Christian Bale, yeah. Yeah. Here's another fun fact about Van Damme song. I don't know if you know this because I know you said you don't watch wrestling, but there's a wrestler named Rob Van Dam. He always used to go like this. He'd go RVD. And he did it because his face, somebody told him he looked like Jean-Claude Van Damme one time, so he actually made his wrestling name Rob Van Dam. It's crazy.
That's cool. I only know the few from, 90s, like The Rock and stuff. The Undertaker. That's as far as it gets. And of course Hulk Hogan, if that's considered wrestling. Because that wasn't
Macho Man.
Huh?
What about Macho Man Randy Savage? You remember Macho Man?
No.
The guy, listen here, yeah. Let me tell you something. Yeah. You remember Macho Man? I'm the cream of the crop, baby. Yeah. The cream always rises to the top. Yeah. You remember Macho? Snap into a Slim Jim. Yeah. Oh my god.
Well, I mean, the last time that I was watching that was 2006, and I was like watching the re stuff of like earlier when The Rock was still doing it, and
yeah,
I thought he was pretty cool, like with his eyebrow. It's like, oh yeah.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson's got nothing on the Macho Man. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, but Lesson of Evil. What do you rank? Where you putting it in all these streams now? Because we always do this. What's it? Where's it at? In the plethora of streams we've done so far now. This is the 5th one, so where's it at?
Number 1 is Man from Nowhere. Number 2 is 13 Assassins. Number 3 is Lesson of Evil.
Ooh.
Number 4 is Ghost in the Shell, and number 5 is Blade of the Immortal.
Blade of the Immortal.
Innocent.
Because I'm so innocent.
Nah, see that my list is completely different than yours. That's cool though.
Cool. What's your ranking?
Number one for me is Ghost in the Shell. Like, I'm still thinking about it from however long ago it was. What, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. I don't even remember. That was, I mean, doing that was fucking fun as hell. Loved it.
Which will have a part 2.
Yes, eventually. Down the road. Number 2 for me is 13 Assassins, because that movie's fucking amazing. Loved it. 3 Man from Nowhere. Number 4 for me is actually Blade of the Immortal, and then this is actually number 5 for me. This is number 5 for me. But I mean, I'm not saying they're like distances apart. I think they're like really close to each other. I mean, it's hard to.
No, it's interesting, you know. Like, I picked this movie specifically because I know it is such a total different thing than what we have had so far.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, as I say many times, to expanding your horizon. Like, I know also down the line, I mean, Blade of the Immortal, I watched like the first 30 minutes of. I don't know why I ever continued not watching it. But I also want to do, like, I sent you a trailer earlier this week with this other amazing actor, along with The Lesson of Evil, about this daughter that goes missing and stuff like, which also seems like such a cool movie. Because like, cool, he's such a cool fucking actor. But that's a movie I haven't seen yet, so that would be interesting because I will have to look it up also so that you can see it. Which.
No, that's a good point though too, because I want to say that too. Like, I know I put this at number 5, but I want to say this too. It's because this is like my first experience with it. You know, all those other movies I've seen multiple times. This is like fresh and it's new, so like I'm gonna have to give it a. Like we talked about this before. Maybe like at the end of the year, like in a couple months from now, we'll do a recap and be like, "This is what we done."
Oh yeah, definitely.
It might change, you know. So it's fresh.
Definitely. Yeah, like fuck. I mean, and also the things that we have in mind of doing. I mean, it's going to be a busy end of the year then.
Yeah, lots.
A whole weekend, or no, whole entire week of recap.
What
basically like an hour long talking about a movie.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm down. That's cool. It'll be fun.
What? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, you filthy animal. Yeah. What about anything else about Lesson of Evil? Is there anything else you can think of off the dome? You have any more stuff in your notes to talk about?
Well, we went pretty much through everything. Also, what I've written down, we nailed it all. And yeah, I think this is a really good psychological thriller, maybe. Bit horror at times. I mean, to me, it's not really horror, but another would think like a sensitive soul would be like. But I think because it's also very much a slice of life, your first time watching it, because I've already seen it like a lot of times, the more that you watch it, the more the small details that you see, like, you know, I noticed right away at the beginning when he goes like, oh, jamming the phones. I'm like, you fucker, you already had this plan from the start. Because I you know, the first time that I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is so confusing. He was so nice. What happened to him? And then later in the movie, you get explained that he already killed his parents and stuff like that. You're like, damn. So I think if you would ever rewatch it, well, maybe your mind, you know, will put it a bit high. Not that it's a contest. I mean, of course, it's your opinion. But I think definitely I would recommend this movie for people to watch it. Though it's probably not really like the typical Thanksgiving movie that you would watch with your entire family.
I would. No, I'm just kidding.
Why not?
Yeah.
Christmas morning.
Merry
Christmas. But if you've ever seen Battle Royale, the Japanese movie, and you liked it, you will like this.
Yeah.
I mean...
No, go ahead, sorry.
I mean, that is just one of the few movies, especially the early 2000s, you had a few Japanese hits that were being released and then rebooted in America. You had Ju-On, Battle Royale, and there was another one, but the Ring. I want to say The Thing, but The Ring. But yeah, if you really like Battle Royale, or basically, or if you ever seen, what the fuck is the name again?
Is it American?
Yeah. I talked
Games.
about it before. Hunger Games, yes. Yeah. Like if you are, if you like Hunger Games, if you're not really familiar with Battle Royale, but you want something better, check this one out.
Yeah. And I want to say this too. Here's what I wanted to say. Like, the thing about these CinemAsian streams that we're doing is cool, and it's really awesome for both of us, and we've talked about this. And I was thinking about this because this is our fifth stream right now, and we're kind of doing things from different facets and different corners of Asian culture. Like, this stream that we're doing now, like today, is like a modern day stream. Like, this could happen in the present day. The stuff we did before was from like, I mean, Man from Nowhere was a modern day one, but that was Korean. This is the first like Japanese one we're doing. Ghost in the Shell was like a cyberpunk in the future. We did 13 Assassins and Blade of the Immortal, which take place in like historical Edo period Japan. So we're trying to pull from like a bunch of different facets of and different dimensions, if you will, of this culture. We don't want it to be just strictly like, people might be watching this saying like, what are you guys doing that for? Well, like, we're not going to keep it just in Edo period Japan. I mean, there's a million other things we could do. So we're trying to change it up and go from place to place to place to place to get like a diverse perspective of the cultures that we're talking about here. So in order to give that to everybody watching or to share our opinions on that with each other, it's cool to experience the whole picture and not just one isolated period, So I think that's cool. But what are we doing tomorrow?
Well, I like to add to it that we are actually, most of all, we are doing these streams for ourselves, but also we know that a lot of people don't know about these movies, and we think that you should know about these movies, though tomorrow's movie, probably everyone have probably seen it. I mean, if you haven't, like, where the fuck, what cave have you been living in, right? So we do this mostly for ourselves. I mean, it's also like, have you seen this movie? Have you seen that movie? No, okay, let's do this, let's do that. Tomorrow, and I think tomorrow people should really like tune in because, I know that Joe has an entire fucking history with martial arts, and he can probably like tell you facts about martial arts that I'm like, oh yeah, that was a nice high kick, and you'd be like, yeah, well, that's actually a feng shui dragon air kicker, and I'm like, okay.
A feng shui dragon.
Tomorrow we will be talking about a classic movie from 1973 with probably the martial art king god of them all. Mr.
Enter
Roper.
the Dragon. Oh my goodness. Bruce the Juice, baby. Woo!
Mr. Roper.
Like Sana said, I'm so stoked to talk about this tomorrow. Please tune into my channel. Sana and I are pumped. Enter the Dragon, baby. Like she said, one of the greatest martial arts movies of all time. I love Bruce Lee. Can't wait. I'm really pumped for it. So. And
tomorrow you have to also understand that Joe will be only streaming from his waist. He will only wear the black belt. So tune in, ladies.
Is that what we're doing? Is that my mission? Yeah.
You gotta bring in the juice, right?
Bruce the Juice, baby.
Yeah, and hopefully I got something nice to look at then, huh?
Right here. Don't forget about Shenron. Classic Enter the Dragon. Yes, Keys. Yes, it is. It's legendary.
I think if you want to... I mean, there are probably people out there that have not watched martial arts movies, right? And I think it will also be like our future mission. Like, what will be the top 5 martial arts movies that you have to watch first? And I think Enter the Dragon is definitely like, start with the master himself.
Absolutely. It's number 1 for me. Absolutely.
I think that could be interesting, though. Like, if you want to get into martial art movies, like the top 5 recommendations, and if you want to get into samurai movies, the top 5 recommendations. So stay tuned. 10 years from now, this will happen.
We have so much stuff we've been talking about. We'll keep you guys posted, obviously, on IG and stuff. So, yeah. I'm trying to figure out how to put the squares on so it's like bleeped out. It's going to be like So.
You know, and I make this joke, and I'm pretty much convinced that if the internet wasn't as fucked up as it is, that he would actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, she's right. If I didn't get
really don't give a fuck.
I probably would. Yeah.
Right.
Black Bolt event only. We're done. It's over. Game over.
So, is there anything that you wanted to say about this movie or about tomorrow's stream? Anything?
Yeah, I want to do one last thing and say one last thing about Lesson of Evil. If you guys get a chance to experience something, and this isn't just about like, you know, Lesson of Evil itself, but I mean like, even with us, like I said, this is our third Takashi Miike movie.
The legend.
If you guys are passionate about stuff out there and you're into it, or here's another thing. Sana and I love this stuff and we're really passionate about it, but we know that other people love this stuff too. We're not the only people who love it. If you guys know of any movies or any things that you might think that we'd be into or interested in, like let us know, because definitely. I'm sure there's a billion movies I haven't seen, and I'm sure Sana hasn't seen some of the stuff that people out there, like, you know, are interested in. But, you know, let us know, and maybe we will do a stream on it down the road. But the thing is, like, we talked about this, there's so much cool shit. Lesson of Evil, Sana, thanks again for, like, suggesting it, because I never saw the movie, and it's awesome. Like, I love it. Like, I mean, it wasn't what I expected, I'll be, like, straight up, but watching it, I appreciate the movie. Like, it makes me appreciate Takashi Miike as a director, because he's so, you know, his range is so versatile. Like I just said about the streams we're doing, he doesn't just focus on one thing. He can do A, B, C, D, all the way through Z. You know, he's a good director. And when you see a movie that's different from what you're used to and you can see what he can do, it makes you appreciate him as a director even more. And like Sana said, the actor even more, because he's been in like a million different things. So like, that's what I want to say about Lesson of Evil. I think it's not for everyone. It's definitely gory. It's definitely not for kids. Don't, you know, like she said, don't watch it around the Thanksgiving table. You know, hey, let's have some turkey and then watch this. You know, you might not want to do that. You might be, you know, losing your appetite. But, really cool movie if you're into that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, tomorrow, my hero, Bruce the Juice. Make sure you guys tune into that. Sana knows so much stuff about Bruce Lee. It's unbelievable. She knows who made the yellow jumpsuit, what kind of sneakers he was wearing, what kind of nunchucks those were.
I don't know the underwear that he was wearing.
Actually, he doesn't wear the yellow jumpsuit in Enter Dragon. That was a trick question. That was a game of death. But, yeah. Yeah.
But if we made you curious about this movie, we do have a link available from online, because that's the only way that Joe could watch it. So if you're curious, you can hit one of us up on Instagram and be like, yo,
here's the link to this gore fest. Yeah.
$5, bitch. And show me the black belt.
We gotta pay for these streams somehow, so free, obviously.
Yeah. So I guess it wraps up for today. I think it has been a long fucking stream, and we only, I think, derailed for 45 minutes only. I mean, compared to the previous stream where I was like, ooh.
We were
so tomorrow, the classic. When you mentioned it, I was like, oh fuck. Oh fuck.
Enter the Dragon.
Oh, I'd enter it, but the few movies that he had made, we will talk about it tomorrow, of course, so I should not really say a lot, but the few movies he had made a big fucking impact around the world, and for sure we will have an entire month dedicated to Bruce Lee and his amazing son Brandon Lee, with all the movies that they did.
Yeah, we definitely have to do more than Enter the Dragon. There's no question about that. And
oh yeah, Brandon Lee, like one of
Showdown
the
Little
movies
Tokyo.
that he did.
Yeah, Crow. I mean, we got to do. Yeah, I mean, It's
I
gonna
mean,
be tough.
he did one movie. I think it's from '86. It takes place in Hong Kong, and everything is shot in China. But this was the time that he tried to make it in China, and Bolo Young is in that movie, and I'm just like, wow. He first fought with his father. Now he's fighting with the son. I thought that was pretty cool. I got really excited. And only the tragic. Oh, hold on. Indeed.
Enter the Dragon. Amazing.
Rapid fire. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Random.
$5 haul. Yeah, I mean, we gotta get our pepperoni pizza somehow.
I'm starving. That's joking.
So we hope to see you guys tomorrow. For now, thank you for watching. Again, if you want to see this movie, drop in our inbox, and we can send you the link. We can be illegal like that. So we're a bit naughty. And hopefully see you tomorrow at the amazing Enter the Dragon stream on Joe's channel. All the links are in the description box below, so check it out if you want to. If not, it's okay. See you tomorrow. And as Joe always says, you do you.
Do you. See you guys. Later.
Ciao.